Hey everyone, Jonathan Bailor here. Very, very excited about today's episode because we truly have an educator of educators on the show today, an individual who has left such a mark on the physical fitness, just biomechanic exercise arena, just a wealth of knowledge, individual who has published more than 50 journal articles, got his doctorate degree in physical therapy from the Massachusetts General Hospital Institute of Health Professions in Boston. He works with professional athletes. He's been featured on ESPN, Men's Health. I mean, our guest today, Dr. Mike Reinold, is all over the place and is truly like the man when it comes to physical movement, what's good, what's bad, and what we should do to cure what ails us. Mike, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Yeah, thanks for having me as well, Jonathan. And wow, that was a heck of an introduction. Wow, I don't even know what to say. I think I'm blushing over here. That was impressive. I think I need to hire you as my marketing team. But no, yeah, I mean, thanks for having me. Obviously, Jonathan and I have been kind of chatting for a while online just about some various topics, and obviously I've been impressed with the research and the contributions that you guys are making with your group as well, to really our body of knowledge and just the promotion of health and wellness. That it's an honor to be kind of involved with you guys. So definitely appreciate being involved with you guys and being on this call today.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Mike. And the one thing I wanted to really bring you on this show to do was, you have your doctorate. You're an expert in this field. And I really want to today elucidate how, when we talk about medicine, right, individuals are generally very intentional about the types of medicine we would take. Like there's an FDA and there's these rigorous trials that things we put into our body go through. And we're certainly very careful not just to take or ingest anything, but I sometimes feel that physical activity, which is just as potent from a stimulating chemical or hormonal changes in our body and neurological changes, we're sometimes, it seems like we're written a prescription of, well, just do anything, just take anything, just listen to this person, or just try this, or just move your body in this way. And Mike, from years and years and thousands of hours of clinical and practical experience that physical movement is such a potent medicine that we really need to be intentional about how we use it. No?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, the same concept between exercise, I think you can use diet as a parallel a little bit. And it's the same concept here. It's not just, throw any sort of diet or throw any sort of fad at you, whatever it may be, the latest trend in nutrition or the latest trend in diet or whatever it may be. It's the same thing with exercise. You can't just kind of, go by the latest trend or whatever it may be in exercise. There's a smarter way of doing it. And I think that's a little bit around the theme of really your aspect in your group, which, obviously deals with both the diet, the nutrition, and then obviously the exercise, but there's a smarter way to exercise as well. And that's the interesting part, for me, and I think for you, and I think we share that in common, is that, if we do a better job at educating the public about the science of what's behind, let's just call it smart exercise, yours is the smart science of slim, but let's talk the smart science of exercise. I think there's definitely a different pathway that you may go down, that you just need to be educated. You need to understand that there's different things out there.
Well, and Mike, what would you say are some of the key characteristics? And folks, I just want to give a quick disclaimer here. We've only got a half hour with Mike today. He is a very, very busy man, but he has an amazing website. It's MikeReinold.com, and his last name is spelled Reinold, and there is just like thousands and thousands of articles and a bunch of free stuff there. So please check it out. But in our half hour today, Mike, let's start digging into what are some of those characteristics of smarter exercise broadly, and how, and I'm talking for someone who is not, working for the Boston Red Sox like many of your clients are, but for the average person who's just trying to get fit and avoid the diabetes epidemic, what are some characteristics of smarter exercise and some red flags that we should watch out for that indicate unintelligent exercise, let's say.
Yeah, well, I think one of the biggest problems we face is that, and you've said this several times before, I've heard this from you, obviously, is that you can't just expect to watch an infomercial on TV at 3 o'clock in the morning and expect that that program is specific enough and applicable enough to you. Because everybody's unique, everybody's individual, and what programs work with some people aren't going to work with everybody. So unfortunately, what we get hit with a marketing stream of exercise fads that's just based on profitability, not on what's the best thing for you to do. So you're not going to see this crazy expensive infomercial on a program that's designed for everybody to just be healthy. That's, you're going to see, more of the glitz and the glamour type program. So, and that's not to say that some of those programs aren't appropriate for some people, but, the way I see it is the general scheme of fitness and wellness is this huge variability when in two ends of spectrums. If you have one end of a spectrum, you have the elite level athlete. So somebody that's using their body in an athletic endeavor to its extreme. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you just have somebody that needs to exercise for health and wellness. Somebody that just wants to decrease their blood pressure or, just be more fit or live longer to play with their grandkids longer. That kind of concept. You have this huge spectrum, and somewhere in the middle, obviously is a range of fitness enthusiasm. And it's there's some people that, I like going out, and there's some people that love to like, for lack of better words, pump iron, or love to feel, I love to deadlift a heavy weight because I love the way I feel afterward. To me, that's different. That's not health and wellness. That's when exercise has turned into either a sport or a hobby. And that's different. If it's entertainment for you, that's different. But I think for your general audience, from my impression from you guys, is there's a bell curve here. And if those elite level people that are doing the extreme fitness, will say they're doing it as not only exercise, but also a sport and a hobby and competitive type nature, whatever it may be, that's great. But that's only a small portion of the bell curve. And the rest of everybody else, that may not be applicable. So there has to be a solution for them as well. And that's where kind of that smart exercise comes in, where you have to be educated on what works, what doesn't work, just like diet fads. There's a lot of diet fads. Why don't diets work? Well, everybody say, why doesn't a diet work? Well, because you don't stick to it. It's too extreme, or it's too different from what you're used to. So it doesn't have a long-term kind of stick factor, that made to stick factor. It's the same thing with exercise. If you do anything too extreme or too out of the ordinary for you, too time consuming, whatever it may be, you're not going to stick with it. So there has to be a smarter, more simpler way to exercise. And that's really where I think you guys have really championed this effort a little bit and done a great job with your systems.
Well, thank you, Mike. And I think you hit on a point which I think it's actually, and this really did surprise me, it is the most common question I ever get. And it is continuing, for the past year plus, I still continue to get it. And that's this distinction you've made, which is so profound, of the difference between a sport and a hobby, and using physical movement as in some ways a preventative or treatment measure for obesity and diabetes and those types of metabolic dysfunction diseases. Like, if you want to become a better pitcher, you will do a very specific type of physical movement to make you a better pitcher. So the global point here is that physical movement, exercise, is so goal dependent. So when we say do X to help prevent and treat obesity and diabetes long term, that may not and likely will not be the best approach if your goal is to become a better marathon runner, because exercise is very much goal specific, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, no. And that's, it's about specificity of training. So if your goal is, I want to run a marathon, well, then you have to train very specific for that. And that's different, but that's your goal. That's your sport. That's your hobby, whatever it may be. That's I think a different group than I think what we're talking about. If your goal is to simply live longer, or if your goal is simply to have more fun in retirement because I don't want to be tight or injured or unable to perform activities because I'm not healthy. If those are your goals, then I think that's different. And you have to have a sustainable program that does that smart based program, and that's completely different.
And I think an interesting distinction, Mike, is something I haven't fully formulated in my mind yet, but primary effect versus side effect. And I think this is part of the reason things can be confusing. For example, if you do one of these extreme plyometric, well, first of all, let's say you're a non-athlete. So you're a 35-year-old mother of three who is potentially carrying 30 more pounds of fat around on your body than you need. And you engage in one of these more extreme plyometric forms of exercise, and you may see some metabolic benefit, but you also start to see like your knees are hurting, your joints are hurting, you slip and you twist your ankle, and you're really, really hungry all the time for some reason. Like the side effect of that type of exercise may be some positive metabolic change, but the primary effect doesn't really have to do with metabolic change. So, but a lot of physical movement will have side effects in the, let's call it metabolic healing arena. But there's also forms of exercise which really, like, their primary benefit is in the metabolic arena and not in the athletic arena. And what are some of the characteristics of exercise that shift their primary benefit to, let's call it athleticism, and their primary benefit to metabolic healing versus a side effect?
Yeah, and that's, I think you brought up a lot of great points. I mean, let's say that example. So that person you mentioned, the 35-year-old mom, she's whatever it may be. If she's engaging in that, like you call it, I think extreme kind of fitness type thing, whatever it may be. To me, there's different rationales. So why is she doing that? Maybe she's a former collegiate soccer player and she misses the community aspect, or she misses the competitive nature that she doesn't have in her life. Don't get me wrong, as a father myself, I mean, I'm competing with my children all the time. Don't get me wrong, but
they want you to not sleep, and you want to sleep, and who's going to win?
Absolutely. There's always some sort of struggle, and it seems like we always lose. But so maybe that's her take, using her as an example. She's been losing all these competitions. So to me, that's a different reason. She's doing that for a different reason. So she may get some benefits from that type of exercise, but it's not what you're talking about. It's different. And I think that's where the general public needs to understand that there's a difference here, is that might not be applicable to them. Maybe they want to take the chance at, I'm going to do my best to not injure myself, or I still want to do this because I like the aspects of it that don't have to do with my health, but more have to do with some of the, the community aspects and the competitive aspects. Maybe I want to do this because it's fun. That's fine. But again, there's a smart way to do that too. So it's different. I think you're correct. I mean, if your general goal is I want to prevent diabetes, then there's probably easier, better, safer ways to do that you don't need to, risk, maybe developing a raging patellar tendonitis or whatever it may be from too many exercises. So to me, it just really depends on the different person here. But more importantly is that the general public, to me, needs to realize that doing more simple and safer and more smart training, like you call it, it has a profound effect on our health and our lives. And it's not just these extreme things or just these popularized marketing types of fitness programs that are effective. These other ones are equally as effective in various ways, and it really just depends on what it is. And I mean, heck, let's be honest. Like, here's a dilemma that always kind of, makes me laugh a little bit here. But you go to your doctor, and they say, like, all right, here's your annual checkup. Well, your cholesterol is a little bit high. You should really, change your diet. Maybe exercise a little bit. Yada yada yada. That's fine. Next year, you go back to like, yeah, you know what, your cholesterol's still high. Well, I guess it's time for Lipitor. And you're like, well, wait a minute. What about actually prescribing smart exercise and prescribing smart, fitness and nutrition type aspects here? It's like our society's too quick to jump to the pill versus putting the effort in to do it. But maybe it's an educational thing. Maybe people don't realize that there are more simple ways and less time consuming ways, and essentially just remaining active and moving the right way can be equally as beneficial. Maybe we're so blitzed with I need to do a 90-minute DVD, or I need to go every day to this gym and do this. Maybe we're so blitzed that we think, well, I'm just going to going to give up and do nothing. But that can't be the solution either.
Absolutely. I think another challenge there, Mike, is what you articulated is excellent, where it seems like you're either at 0 or 90 miles an hour. And for a lot of people, they're just like, I don't feel safe driving at 90 miles an hour, or I don't want to, or my car doesn't even go that fast.
Right.
They're just
I'm just going to do nothing.
I'm just going to leave it in the driveway. But another thing, Mike, and I'm curious to get your take on this, is when we talk about smarter exercise, and you know this obviously from the physiology of the body, there is not like once you start to exercise smarter, for example, using higher levels of resistance or intensity, you can do things metabolically in minutes. And I'm talking 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, that no quantity of less intelligent exercise will ever do. It's almost like if you can take as many baby aspirin as you want, it will not have the same effect on you as if you were to take one Percocet. It's a different thing. And
right.
And how do we, because I think that's so profound, because I feel as human nature, we have this predictably irrational aspect of our brain where we equate doing more with doing better. And if we can't do more, like if we only have 10 minutes, we're like, well, forget about it. I can't do anything in 10 minutes that will possibly help me. Whereas in reality, there's things you could do in 10 minutes that would help you avoid diabetes and obesity more than if you just went outside and ran a 5K, probably.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was a study published a couple of summers ago that I remember had, a big impact on the way I looked at exercise, et cetera. But they looked at the, lifespans, and they looked at the effect of exercise on lifespans. And essentially what they found, just to kind of, paraphrase briefly here, but just exercising 15 minutes a day had an increase in your longevity, just 15 minutes a day. So this whole I'm going to go to the gym and get on the treadmill for an hour, and I'm going to do that 2-3 times a week. I mean, okay. I mean, that, that's one approach, but is that sustainable? Are you going to, for the rest of your life, are you always going to have time to drive to the gym and drive back to the gym and, go on the treadmill and just grind it away with kind of like you kind of say, we'll say stupid exercise, we'll say, or not smart exercise. Is that something you're going to be able to sustain, or can you squeeze in 10, 15 minutes a day? Can you do that, when you wake up in the morning, just real briefly, just kind of get a quick smart workout in and make that part of your lifestyle? I mean, it's completely different to me.
Well, and I also think there's a profound empowering, or let's just call it injury prevention nature. I mean, I've noticed, Mike, that one of the challenges I faced historically when I did less intelligent exercise and was more in the athletic arena is if you go into an exercise session tired, or knowing that you have to do it for 90 minutes, like the first 45 minutes, you're really just phoning it in. Maybe you're even watching television or reading a book, and that's when you accidentally don't step on the treadmill and you step on the side part and you fall and get broken, because like the mind is going, like if you're tired, you're going to move differently than if you're not. And if you have 60 more minutes of this to do, you're going to move differently than if it's the last minute of what you're doing. So what do you think in terms of injury prevention, of having forms of exercise where we can really be present in the moment and focused? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it comes back down to what we've been saying here, is that if you have a doable, sustainable type of program that's maybe 10 minutes, for example, 15 minutes, like you're kind of advocating a little bit here, in your head that, okay, this is going to be what I'm doing. This is my lifestyle change. You're going to do a better job at that. I'm going to give you and all your listeners a big secret in the world of physical therapy here. So I'm going to help you out. Maybe this will hurt my profession longer. I'm going to give you a secret.
Here's a secret.
A secret behind every type of injury, almost every injury I can think of, is movement. That's our secret weapon in almost everything here. If you have low back pain, you know what helps the most? Movement. If you have knee pain, you know what helps the most? Movement. Shoulder pain? Movement. Neck pain? Movement. That's movement is the key to health. Us sitting at our desk in terrible posture with our desk jobs, et cetera, that is really a ticket to pain, a ticket to dysfunction and injury, whatever it may be. So movement is really the solution to everything. So if you go to a physical therapy clinic for low back pain and your treatment consists of passive modalities like, heat and ultrasound and e-stim, that's not physical therapy. That's not really what our profession's about. It's about movement, and it's about doing smart movement, which really fits along with your theme here. Is it's educated, specific, individualized programming for you, for whatever it may be. But movement is the cornerstone. So really, if you look at what's happened to us in terms of exercise and stuff with technology, we sit so long during the day. We sit all day at our desk, we type, we're on our Blackberries, our iPhones, whatever it may be now, and just in this terrible hunched over position. We have to almost get to, and this is kind of what I call it, but this reverse posturing kind of thing. So your posture all day becomes habit if you never reverse it. So if you just continuously hunch forward at your desk, that's going to be a habitual posture that you're going to get. And then you're going to stand up and you're going to still have that posture. And that leads to imbalances and essentially just poor movement patterns. So what's going to happen now is that you're going to function poorly. You're going to slunch forward. You're going to go into the kitchen and try to reach up into a cupboard and get a glass, and you're going to hurt your shoulder because it's not meant to do that. So it's different. The test we always do, this is funny. So maybe everybody during the podcast now can kind of do this, but sit down. If you're not, you're probably already sitting anywhere. Slouch forward real bad, like really bad posture. Just slouch down like as bad as you can be and try to lift both arms up into the air. There's not that much room, right? You kind of pinch. You can't even get your arms to your head. You run out of room.
I'm doing it. I feel like a bodybuilder. I can't, because I have no range of motion.
Yeah, you feel like what a bodybuilder would look like. Yeah, no, I understand. Yeah. And now what is that? You're running out of room. So you're pinching your rotator cuff technically between two bones. So that is what shoulder impingement is to an extent. Now imagine if you lived in this position and functioned in this position, that's going to do some wear and tear on the shoulder. Now sit up nice and tall. Give me as best posture as you can right now. Lift your arms. Sorry. and
Mike's getting into it. He's
I got excited. But lift your arms all the way up overhead now. Wow, you can go all the way overhead and you clear that joint a little bit. So that's that postural adaptation. So what do you have to do? You have to move. So if you sit at a desk all day, you have to move. You have to get up hourly. You have to move around. And even if it's just taking a walk, whatever it may be, that's part of that reverse posturing concept. But then the other aspect is just getting on a routine exercise program, that smart exercise program that's doable, that 10, 15 minutes that gets you moving, because it's going to help everything. So you brought up this I start rambling a little bit. I get excited here, but you brought up like injury prevention and how do you prevent injury? Well, moving is how you prevent injury, because in this society, as a physical therapist, I'll tell you what I see the most is injuries or dysfunctions that people have because they're not moving enough. So that's, to me, it's about moving. Now, if you can move in a smart way, like you advocate, so that way you have even better goals, not just moving around, but also can have some goals that affect you on the cellular level. Fantastic.
And Mike, that is such a profound, I love that demonstration. And I love one thing I've found, and one thing I try to combat, is this perception that what I'm advocating is a lack of exercise. I'm promoting a lack of movement, and that's actually not it at all. What I'm promoting is, I see it as almost a spectrum. On one end of the, kind of like you talked about, there's a very, very casual person, there's an athlete. I see on one end of the spectrum, this is obviously an oversimplification, but there are movements that truly we are designed to do. Walking is a good example. Standing upright versus slouching at a desk. These are things which doing them really has no side effect. Like the more you walk, of course, you could drink too much water, you could breathe too much air, you could probably walk too much, but the likelihood of us doing that is not really a problem. And standing up tall, there's really a low likelihood that will ever result in anything negative. So I feel like we need to dial up these basics and even these restorative type, almost physical, these almost therapeutic movements. We should, if we have time, let's go there, and then let's jump to the other end of the spectrum, which is for the individual who's just looking to prevent obesity, diabetes, and feel great. Very intense, but still very safe exercise. But where we hear the most are these in the middle exercises, which are not really natural. They're not really intense, and they're risky. And let's just move out to those either edge of the spectrum rather than spending all the time in the middle.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. And, I think it'd be good. Let's comment first on your first one, kind of the restorative, I think is how you phrased it, kind of techniques or whatever it may be. That's huge, in the world of exercise and fitness. From my perspective that, I deal with a broad range of clientele, from, kids to, senior adults to professional athletes in the middle. I deal with a giant range of people. When you look at professional athletes, so, the people that get the elite level care, we'll say, if you look at them, they have as much aggressive, intense training than they do restorative or what we call regen type activities as well for regeneration. We have just as much of that because we know that, having a restorative quality of some of, our exercises is going to result in better performance. Now, I don't mind using the word performance. Everybody, seems to think when I say performance, that means hitting a home run for some reason. But you just being able to walk around the supermarket is performance in my mind. You're performing that. You're performing human function, maybe not a sport function, but you're still performing. So for me, I think there's a big area of people that, could maybe get more exposed to some of this restorative or regen type activities. And that's, again, based off movement. So, what are some of these that, I like? I mean, I'm sure you could probably comment on something that you like too. Things like yoga or things like foam rolling and maybe like even some kind of like, active or dynamic type stretching type activities. Like to me, those are good because you're moving. Foam roll is a big topic in the fitness industry, foam roll, we want to lengthen our muscle tissues. We want to change our soft tissue. We want to massage them a little bit. Okay. All right. I agree with all that. I don't know if I foam roll my muscle all day, if I'm going to have any real changes on my soft tissue. I may change my tone. I may change the way I feel, but I don't think I'm really lengthening my muscles any differently. So it may not be the goal we're getting, but what you're doing is you're moving. Mm-hmm. So again, you're getting that movement, you're getting that smart thing. Same thing with like yoga or dynamic type stretching, Pilates, whatever it may be. It's just getting fluid again. It's getting out of your terrible posture that we spend all day and getting into this good zone of posture that we spend all day. To me, I think that's probably not focused on enough. And, to me, if there was one thing I could change, even just with myself, I think I would try to focus more on aspects of that in myself because I know I'll feel better afterwards.
And Mike, I think one of the profound truths in what you just said was really getting back to the Hippocratic Oath, which is first do no harm. If we're going to spend our valuable time moving, let's ensure that we're already going out of our way. Let's make sure that first that activity doesn't do harm. That's goal number one, because if you hurt yourself, speaking from experience, you may not even be able to moving forward. And that's why I think these restorative exercises, and the challenge is they're not sexy. They're not, we don't see people on TV sweating with cool lighting, but I guess we could. We just need to need to make those infomercials. But avoiding the need to essentially go to a physical therapist. I mean, I'm not trying to put you out of business, but
no, I want to be out of business, but and I think that's some of that's the misconception of physical therapy too. You don't have to have like a blowout injury to come see us. We can help you with some of these early stages. If you're at a desk your entire life, so 25 years you're at a desk job, and you want to start moving in here, seeing a physical therapist can help kickstart that a little bit because you probably need some manual therapy. You probably need some very specific kind of corrective exercises that you can perform to kind of open you up and get you in a better position so that way you can now do your smart exercise training. I agree 100%. I mean, it's a lot of this isn't going to, none of it's going to. You're not going to have washboard abs, right? You're not going to lose 30 pounds in 2 weeks. You're not going to have ripped muscles out of your mind type thing by doing any of these things. So it's they're a bit boring. They're not sexy. I guess it's the commodity of feeling better versus the commodity of being stronger or having flat abs. It's funny, like we'll put the time and the effort into trying to get washboard abs, even though we're going to bang our head against the wall, trying to achieve that goal. But people won't put the 10 minutes into to feeling better because, they haven't been educated. It's not popular. It hasn't been shown that just by moving 10, 15 minutes a day with smart training is going to have a huge impact on your quality of life because you're going to be able to do things better.
Well, and Mike, here's the unfortunate irony is that why do we want those washboard abs? Why do we want those toned arms? Because we think it will make us feel better.
Yeah, true. We've equated that. That is a good point. That's true.
So instead, and when it's this distinction between happiness coming from the external rather than the internal, is like you can short circuit all of that and just feel good. and here's the good news: is if you incorporate smarter eating and you incorporate some safe and higher intensity exercise, you will simultaneously see those external benefits. But you can just short circuit it and start feeling good today.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, it's just a paradigm shift in the way we think about it. So, again, programs and stuff like what you're advocating it's a step in the right direction.
Well, Mike, thank you so much. This is brilliant. And folks, please do check out Mike's website. It is a treasure trove of smart exercise information. And again, that's Reinold.com, Reinold.com, the educator of educators, the man who puts the smart in smarter exercise. Mike, thank you so much for joining us today. I really do appreciate it.
Thanks, Jonathan. It was a pleasure. And, I wish you guys and all your listeners the best of luck trying to achieve some of these goals.
Thank you so much, Mike. And listeners, I hope you've enjoyed today's show as much as I have. And remember, this week and every week after, eat more and exercise less, but be sure to do that smarter. Talk to you soon.